super lit. We'll call this regular city council meeting to order on December 16th, 2024 at 6:05 PM. Roll call, please.
Mr. Eimer. Present. Mr. Bateman.
Present.
Mr. Sanders.
Present.
Mrs. McClellan.
Present.
Mr. Parrott.
Present.
Mr. Downs.
Present.
Mrs. Ross.
Present.
Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anybody like to speak under public participation this evening? Okay, for the record, there is no public participation. We will start with the consent agenda this evening. Consists of 5A, payment of bills, and 5B, approval of minutes, November 26th, 2024, Committee of the Whole meeting, December 2nd, 2024, regular city council meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Rolfs made the motion. Alderman Downs second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Downs.
Yes.
Mrs. Ross.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Yes.
Mr. Eimer. Yes. Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Mrs. McClellan.
Yes.
Mr. Parrott.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 6A, resolution abating the tax heretofore for the year 2024 to pay debt services on $2,285,000 general obligation bonds, alternative revenue source series 2014 of the city of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois.
So moved.
Second.
Alderwoman McClellan made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Ms. Rolfs.
I think just for the audience, that when we talk about these these items, we should mention what that was for. And I know that that is for the TIF district.
Correct.
So I just think that they should know that when we spend more looking at that kind of, over millions of dollars, what did we spend it on? And just a friendly reminder that that was on the TIF district.
That was for the TIF district. Yes, thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just add to what Alderman Rolfs has said, that that is, in fact, of course, correct, and that is a 20-year alternate revenue bond. So the end date on that will be 2034.
Okay, so we have how many more years then to pay on that?
10.
10 more years.
Yeah, we're 10 down and 10 to go. Right?
10 down, 10 to go, all right.
Okay, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Mrs. McClellan.
Yes.
Mr. Parrott.
Yes.
Mr. Downs.
Yes.
Mrs. Ross.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Yes.
Mr. Eimer. Yes. Mr. Bateman.
Yes. Next item is 6B, resolution abating the tax heretofore for the year 2024 to pay debt service on $3,270,000 general obligation bonds, alternative revenue source series 2018 of the city of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Rolfs made the motion. Alderwoman O'Donoghue second. Ms. Rolfs?
This is for? the
This is for
safety-
the safety complex,
safety
correct.
complex.
Mr.
And
Treasurer.
I would add to that that is a 15-year, unlike the previous one, this is a 15-year alternate revenue bond issued in 2018. So the last payment, and that will be in 2033.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Bateman?
Just for technical purposes, it's not the safety complex. This is for the Lincoln Police Department.
Okay.
The safety complex is at 911 Pekin Street.
I think
Oh,
it-
that's okay. I see.
People get it confused. We just need to
Yep.
make sure they know it's the police department.
yes, the Lincoln Police Headquarters on Fifth Street. Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Donoghue.
Yes.
Mr. Eimer. Yes. Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Mrs. McClellan.
Yes.
Mr. Parrott.
Yes.
Mr. Downs.
Yes.
Mrs. Ross.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the next item is item 6C, an ordinance for the levying of taxes for all corporate purposes for the city of Lincoln, Illinois for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2024 and ending April 30th, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman O'Donohue made the motion, Alderman Downs second. Okay, so you may have noticed that we mentioned the 2024 dates. So it was a typo, and that's okay. But we'll need an amendment to correct the dates. So,
And
yes, for April 25.
Motion to change the dates from beginning May 1st, 2025.
Or 24. That'd be 24, Sam.
That would be 20.
I'm sorry.
April 30th to 25.
The only one we need to change is
Oh.
April 30th to
Okay, yeah,
2025.
yeah. Changing the date from April 30th to 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion. Alderman Eimer second. Discussion on the amendment. Roll call, please.
Mr. Eimer?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donohue?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on item C as amended? Okay, roll call then on item 6C as amended.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donohue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Mr. Bateman?
A resounding no.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Ms. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Next item is 6D, an ordinance regarding baseline building codes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Ms. Rolfs?
Since this is going to be a change, and I think they mentioned last week that Wes would be handling a lot of the changes in that, is that going to take a lot of your work time, do you think, Wes?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a long process. I've been working on it, so it's going through all the books and every single code and just seeing what we want to do for this in particular city. So yeah, it's going to be a while.
This is kind of mandated, correct? That we do
Yes.
this and we
The
change
the state has adopted building codes. Literally, the state doing so. Most states already have building codes, basically the ICC building codes. If not, the municipalities do. For whatever reason, the state decided they wanted to. In this case, if a municipality does not have a building code, they are regulated to follow whatever the state has adopted. In this case, we have our own. And I had previously been planning on updating them anyways to the most current, which is now 2024. So last year I budgeted for all the books and everything like that. So it was already in place or in the works as far as the city goes. So
Do you anticipate that it'll take the full year to get through this or longer?
I can't honestly tell you that. I've just actually received all the material. It's taken me 8 months to get all the material that I've requested. So
Well, will you keep us posted about how that's going and
yeah, I mean it's me reading through everything and see what changes have occurred over the years. And I've taken seminars and classes on the important changes, I guess. Some of them are very
well, I just think that
minute.
this is a heavier workload
No,
facing
it's-
you and that
no,
you
it's
should be
fine.
aware of that.
it's fine. I'll take care of it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donohue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is 7A, approval of bid from Harold Goodman, Inc. for the demolition and removal of the property at 605 Lincoln Avenue in an amount not to exceed $16,000.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman Eimer made the motion. Alderwoman McClellan second. Discussion? Ms. Ross?
Does this have a process that we have to go through before we can actually do the demolition? Or
Well-
can we establish a demolition as soon as the weather's permitting?
No, there's a
What-
process. We've been, myself and the city attorney, we take that on. Part of the bid has to be, advertised in the paper. There's a 30-day waiting period and so forth. So we're well into all that process. It's the same process we do for all of these.
Well, I talked with someone that was concerned
won't be
about that
tomorrow.
house, so I figured it'd be nice if you could just address, that it
We've
is
got
a
to,
process.
you've got to get all the utilities abandoned. Like I said, this waiting period that we have to do by statute. So it's the typical thing we have to go through every time.
So it won't be something that happens tomorrow.
Correct. It's not that far off, but it will not be tomorrow, yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donoghue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes. Okay, next item up is item 8A, City Treasurer's Report for November 2024. Treasurer Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. If you look at the general fund balances, you see they've improved, compared to where we were a month ago, but we're still down considerably from where we were a year ago. Last month, at this time, at the end of October, we were down year over year about 468,000. At this point, we're down about 397,000. Now, it's still considerably better than we were in previous years, but not as good as it was last year. One thing that did happen during the month of November is we got the final distribution of property taxes from the county, so that increased the fund balance considerably. Anyway, that's starting to move back in the right direction, but I'd still be very cautious with that because, and I talked about this in last month and previous months, everything we buy right now costs more. It's gone up considerably over the last 4 years, and I'm hoping that we'll see that go in the other direction, and I think we will, but I don't think you're going to see that happen overnight. So we got to be really, really cautious with how we spend that money going forward. If you look at the attachments, in particular the various sources of revenue that were distributed through the state, we're ahead of where we were a year ago with that, with the municipal sales tax and the state use tax. You see, for August we were down about $3,000, but overall we're up about 800,000. So that's a good sign. However, a lot of that, as I've said before, is reflective of inflation because when things cost more, the tax on them is going to be higher. Non-home rule sales tax, we're up a little bit during the month. Year over year, only about 15,000. I think this year, last year at this time, we're at 693,438, and you see there we're at 708, 915. So we're not up by as much as we would like to see. And then the state income tax, see there, unfortunately, kind of a downward trend there in October, but we are up over where we were a year ago by about $120,000. So that is, we'll see how that, and that you can't always look at that on a month-by-month basis because it's not always consistent. A lot of people file quarterly returns. Some people don't file quarterly returns. There are all kinds of variables in how that money's received. And motor fuel tax, well, all the efforts to tax it more have not really produced much more in the way of taxes, as you can see there. They're pretty level overall with what they have been. And then finally, the much discussed video gaming tax. You see there we had a very small increase for the month of October. But year over year, we're about 10,000 ahead. Last year at this time, we were 412,337. This year, we're at 422,489. So that's more or less holding steady to what it was a year ago. This year and last year are more comparable than previous years when we had, for 2020 and 2021 especially, a lot of the impact on that, as with the other sources, were from the COVID. By 2022 and 2023 and now this year, you see that that has leveled out, and we're kind of back, we're back for the last 3 years, very close to where we were from year to year. And that's all I have, unless there's questions about the report.
Any questions for Mr. Conzo? Okay, thank you, Mr. Conzo. Okay, next item is 8B, the city clerk's report for November 2024. Ms. Bateman.
In the month of November, we received $356,258.17 in sewer receipts, which both prisons did pay in the amount of $27,033.80 in the month of November. I would like to bring it to everyone's attention out there. When the bills go out at the end of the month, there'll be a letter in everybody's sewer bill reminding them about the 10% discount that they can take in February. It explains what they need to do for them to know how much they can pay in February to get the discount. And there's a big reminder, do not call and ask before January 27th, because we will not know because of going through the water company and getting what your usage was and stuff. So we will not know that before the January 27th. So this letter that will go in your sewer bills will explain what to do, and you have to pay if you're going to take the discount, it has to be paid from February 1st through February 20th. Anything after the 20th of February, you cannot take the discount, and you can't have any balance due to take the discount. It has to be paid up good to get the discount.
Alderman Heimer.
Of course, I paid mine like the Tim said. So February 1st come up and.
No, well, yeah, you can, but you can call after January 27th or come up, and they will tell you what your dollar amount. Or you could just wait and come February 1st and
just pay it all for the.
Yeah, but they won't know before January 27th what everybody's will be.
That is becoming a very popular.
Yeah, I forget what the number was last year, but yeah, it gets.
I think it was around 1,000 people, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Alderman Parrott.
And that's because, Peggy, over the months of October, November, December, the rates are going to be determined for
Right.
that water usage.
Right.
And then, so after come January, you can.
Yeah. Take a shower.
or your yearly bath or whatever, right?
Yeah. But we do bill in arrears, so that'll be February is for January billing, basically. Yeah. And there are still some people out there that may have a credit when they get this bill. We usually don't send out credit bills with credits, but since these letters go out, they'll print them. So if you have a credit, make sure you see that that's a credit, that you don't owe anything at that time. So some people do get confused on that. So
Anything else for Ms. Bateman? Okay, thank you, Ms. Bateman. Okay, next up is 8C, Department Head Reports for November 2024. They are either on file and on the city website already, or they will be shortly. The next item is 9A, approval of work order number 12 for engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant dechlorinization addition from Crawford Murphy and Tilly in an amount not to exceed $65,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders,
Yes.
Ms. McCullough,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mrs. Ross,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donoghue,
Yes.
Mr. Eimer, Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Next item up is 9B, approval of funding agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Logan County Tourism Bureau for the year beginning January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Rolfs made the motion. Alderman Downs second. Alderman Bateman.
I'd like to amend that to 90%, down from the 95%.
I'd second that.
Alderman Bateman made a motion to amend the percentage from 95 to 90%. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Alderwoman O'Donoghue.
So it's, the original is, hang on a minute, I'm trying to find it here, is
95%. So we're gonna fund the tourism 95%. So what does that come out as a dollar figure last year? Do you know off the top of your head? Like how much we gave?
I think Mrs. Ross will, because I just researched that and gave her that, and I did not keep a copy of it, but, oh, thank you, Mrs. Ross. This is the information that I provided to Alderman Rolfs just a few days ago. So we had $201,570 in the last fiscal year, of which we gave them $185,156.64. Keep in mind, this is a cash basis, so a lot of times when we calculate this, we're based on what we've taken in for the month in which we issue it. We don't necessarily go back to the end of the previous month, so it may vary a little bit in the percentage.
And then who else puts into this fund?
Nobody.
Well, no, they get grants, as I understand it, from,
But they don't have a regular contributor, such as another party, such as the county or anybody else. They do receive funds through grants that they request annually. Alderman Down, or Alderman Barrett?
I believe they get a yearly grant as well. Every year of,
Is that the roughly $30,000
Yes.
one they get?
yes.
Alderman,
They have to apply for that. She's asking who else contributes on a regular basis. Nobody. It's the city of Lincoln. No other hotels. Atlanta's the only other hotel
Yeah,
outside
Lincoln's,
the city, and they keep all of their money.
right, Lincoln's hotels are the only ones who pay in.
Alderman Barrett.
My recommendation, at least to put out there for some thought, is if the city would like some additional funds to go to tourism dollars that they're missing out on for things like Third Friday. My recommendation is the rent money that tourism pays the city, instead of going into the general fund, to go into that, to a Third Friday or tourism like fund, specifically that the city would have and hold, like I think we do for the Third Friday funds already.
The hotel motel
Right.
line item?
Yes.
I don't know. Well, it's hotel motel revenue that is given to the Tourism Bureau. And should they, do they return it, or do we just not collect that? How would we do that?
well.
There are multiple ways it could be done.
The easiest way to do it would be not to collect that $10,800 and then just put it into that line. We have that special events line in the general fund, and under that sub-fund, with a number of other things. That would probably be the easiest thing to do, would be to increase the funding in that line by that amount. It would offset some of the cost of that, rather than, rather than giving it to them and then collecting it. You see what I mean?
Well, in comparison, that's $12,000. Well, it's $900 a month, I believe. So roughly 12,000. But how does that offset the difference between the 95 and the 90?
How would it offset? Well, you would subtract it
difference.
you would just subtract it from what you gave them. If you give them 95, you would, when you get to a certain point in the year, you would just subtract. You could do it a
Well-
number of different ways. You do it on a monthly basis, or
I think maybe
we could collect it. Either way, it could be done either way.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't very clear with my question. So what is the difference? Say, for instance, you did this for Miss Rolfs, and on that 201,000, it sounds like last year was 95%. If we were to keep 90% of that, how much more money would we see in the hotel motel as a result
Well,
of that?
I guess I'd go on basis of what we keep each month, and it's usually right around $800, $700 to $800. So you would double that,
So it's,
1,600.
well,
If you went from 95% down to 90%, you would
it would
double
be six.
the amount that you're
Well, but if we would get an additional $800 a month as a result of that, or we would see that in hotel motel, and Steve's suggestion is to forego the $900 a month for rent, you're gonna end up in roughly the same spot. I guess it's just a
Yeah, that's
difference
my
of how you wanna
thoughts.
do it.
Pretty much a wash.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be cleaner if it showed the transaction of them paying rent?
I guess you could
I mean.
write it
or-
in the agreement, however you're going to want to do it, and then it's.
Yeah, we can
John.
work out the
Mr.
details. of
Mr.
it.
Hoblet?
I brought up the previous lease agreement we have here, and perhaps it's somewhat prudent that we're talking about it now. And it could affect some of your guys' discussions here, but I will note the lease agreement is going to be coming up for renewal. We'll have to renew with them sooner rather than later because it was a 1-year lease with a 1-year extension. That was done back in 2023. So
What month do you know?
it just blanks for the dates, so I mean, if it was January 1st, 2023, it'd be expiring at the end of this month, but it seems somewhat unlikely if it was done in January. So, that's just food for thought because rates and terms can change. So,
Ms. Rolfs?
As I recall, from several years back, the money that is paid by the hotels and motels, and I know that staggers, and some of them don't get all their money in 1 month, they're sometimes late.
Wrinkles in.
And when I was getting some of that from Main Street, it went to the county. So the money that comes from then the state hotel motel tax comes directly to the city,
Correct.
correct? And out of that, we're taking $900 a month rent. We keep.
Well, Out of that, we are keeping 5%, and we are giving 95% of the revenue generated through hotel motel to the Tourism Bureau. And then as an expense for the Bureau, they are turning around and paying the city $900 a month for rent of the depot.
So is that, I don't mean for it to sound funny, but so is that a profit for us? I mean,
I don't,
we don't have to pay off the depot. It was already paid for, correct?
correct.
So the $900 per month that comes in is $900 that goes into a fund where?
Treasurer, I think general fund, but the treasurer would have to
The
speak.
It does go in the general fund, but the 5% that we keep out of the hotel motel tax proceeds stays in the hotel motel tax fund. So, you've got that $700-800 that we keep, and then in addition, you've got the $900 that they pay, which goes.
Okay, but it's not like that they aren't giving us $900 a month
They are.
They are.
already.
They are.
Right, and so we do have some income that comes back to the city from the hotel motel tax,
Correct.
in that $900. Plus then, if we take 5%, charge them 5%, so it's $900 plus the 5% that they get per month that comes to the city. Correct?
Right now, the $900 doesn't go, the 5% goes into one fund, the $900 goes into a different line item. So right now, the discussion is, do we change it from 95 to 90 and keep the money flowing in the same line? Or Steve's version is, leave it at 95%, but then change where we put the $900 a month rent that they pay us. I agree there needs to be a paper trail. If it's just a procedural thing to where we change the line item where the $900 a month goes to, then that's an extra $10,000 into that fund that I'm trying to increase, so the city of Lincoln, us here, we get to have the conversation of where that money is spent. Third Fridays is great, everybody agrees. But it's getting more expensive to run Third Fridays. The bouncy houses are getting more money, bands are getting more expensive. So at one point, we have to help fund that section
So does
of our budget.
Does the $900 a month have to go into the general fund?
No, it can go into the hotel motel line item, correct?
That for sure.
We're not really sure. See, that, there is when you collect hotel motel tax, you're required to keep a separate fund, separate bank account for that. So I'd have to check, but I'm not at all sure that $900 can go into that bank account. However, if it can't, we can designate that amount. We have a line in the general fund now because we no longer have as much in the hotel motel tax fund as we once did. We have a line in the general fund for special events and projects of that sort. You could make sure that you always allocate that at least that 10,800, if not more, which it generally would probably allocate more. So
The money could go, once we
For that
receive the rent, it could then go into this general fund line item.
I mean, and then that then could be used by the city for Third Fridays and other things.
Other special events, yeah. Okay, so what would the
That
council?
might give us more money, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there is an amended motion on the floor.
How much would the 5% extra generate? What's the difference in dollars we're talking about here?
it would generate for us probably $700 to $800 a month. Some months are better than
So
others.
I'll remove my motion to amend it, as long as we specify those funds,
The rental funds.
yes, go into our special events fund.
You'd have to, that would have to be a voted item later.
Put it
At
on
a
the
later
next
time.
cow.
Well, no. Well, go ahead, Mr. Hoblet.
You would, Alderman Sanders, you need to remove your second and you move your first, but
Correct.
if we're just looking to just allocate for the time being to ensure that that $900 is spent, I don't know why we would need a special voting item. We would just see that that $900 in the general fund just gets spent for different, gets spent for local events.
It's just a ledger transfer, whatever he's putting it in now, into the special events line item.
We'll just receipt it in a different actual line item, but it'll still be in the general fund. It'll just be in a different line.
Okay, then
No, we do have a separate line.
Okay.
I'll remove my first.
Okay, so Alderman Sanders withdraws his second, and Alderman Bateman withdraws his amended motion. Okay, so, Ms. Bateman.
We do bill tourism for phones, because we get the bill here, so we bill them for phones and the security, the panic button. But I mean, it's what we pay. It's basically reimbursing us.
And we do the maintenance. Wes does a lot of various maintenance activities down there when they have issues. Just so everybody's aware.
That's an actual expense.
Right.
So, I mean, but the rent, we own the building, so it's just money we got coming in.
It's maintaining our property, the city's property. Yes. Okay, so then the percentage in the agreement still stands at 95%. Or is there any other discussion about this item? Okay, roll call, please. On the actual agenda item as presented on the agenda, yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donoghue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Ms. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
We're all in agreement that starting January 1, the rent money will be transferred to a different line item.
Yes.
General fund.
Yes. Okay, that brings us down to announcements. I've got a few. The first and foremost, I want to thank the police department. Through their quick work, they were able to identify the individuals who stole the tree off of the courthouse lawn, and they are working through that process at this time. So the tree was recovered. I will say that none of the ornaments or anything on it were recovered. The tree itself was, and they were working to identify someone who could use it because some members of the community had already put up another tree on the square and decorated it for the family. So Again, if anybody knows where the tree topper is for that tree, that's the one thing that they want the most. It was handmade by a family member. And so if you do, or you're listening and you hear or you know where that's at, please contact the police department. The other thing is Miss Bateman, Mr. Conzo, and all department heads have reported back. They have no items for the committee of the whole agenda next week. So unless the council would like to just meet, just to open the meeting and then adjourn it, is the council okay with canceling next week's meeting? There are no agenda items.
What do you do about the voting meeting the following week?
Payment of bills. Payment of bills, and then.
You can put payment of bills.
I'm gonna be at church.
Yes. Some members, Andrea Runge and Dorsey, I can't remember her last name, but she's working with Andrea. They want to come talk to the council about business retention and expansion. It's an effort that Mr. Woodhull and I have been working with them on for a while, and they would like to come talk to the council and just share what they're actually doing out in the community. So that'll be in the first week of January. And then the payment of bills. So that would be a relatively short meeting as well. Are there any concerns with canceling the 23rd? Ms. Rolfs?
No.
You good? Okay.
I think I'm gonna be at church.
Okay. Okay. So then we'll cancel December 23rd's meeting. A couple things left. The website, I think we've told everybody that you've approved a website redesign, and Miss Bateman and I met with them again last week. It's coming along really nicely. We got a few suggestions and modifications that we've asked them to make based on what they've done. I think the council will be pleased. We'll ask them, once it's ready, we'll ask them to come in and just share it with the council and walk through it, just so everybody kind of knows where everything's at. But Ms. Bateman, anything to add to that topic? Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Woodhull, not meaning to put you on the spot, but can you give us an update on Sangamon Street?
So I was by there today, right after I left. It looks like they got the last wall down, interior wall. So basically now it's cleaning up. So they'll have to clean up, get foundations and slab and all that dealt with, but it's actually moving really, really quickly, really well. Have no issues at this point. So once we get it a little more secured, cleaned up, I'll get structural back in there to see what if anything needs done to the neighbors.
Okay.
So it's moving well, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all the announcements I had. Did anybody else have an announcement? Alderman Eimer.
I just want to wish you all Merry Christmas. I'm kind of glad we canceled 23rd because I'm taking off for a 2-week vacation. I'm going where it's warm, so I'll try to bring some heat back with me to you guys, but I can't promise anything. So, have a Merry Christmas.
Anybody else announcements? Okay, I will echo Mr. Eimer's happy holidays to everybody. Safe travels as well. And with that, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderman Parrott second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Meeting is adjourned at 6:44 p.m.